We have a game where Caleb Williams, just like we said when we drafted him, hey, this kid's going to set rookie Bears quarterback records. Now, are those records, is that bar very high? No, it's not, but that's why we were pretty confident that he was going to set it. And a game where he wound up having, I got it here, 373 yards, 2 touchdowns, 68.1 completion percentage, and 103.1 quarterback rating. Caleb goes ahead and breaks the yardage record for Bears rookie quarterback. He also ties the throwing touchdown record at 11 touchdowns. The yardage is, I believe he's at 2,300 something now, surpassing Mitch Trubisky for that one. But, another comeback type game for Caleb Williams, but you can't really call it a comeback unless you finish the comeback. And that's, unfortunately, that's kind of been the MO of these Eberflus teams. A lot of blown games at the very end, over and over and over and over. And so it was great to see, like I said, this season's all about an eye test for me. It was great to see that effort and that clutch performance from Caleb. I'm just going to add it in there. I think where the rookie downfall comes in, when we say, you got to live with the rookie slumps and this and that, is right in overtime, you get the ball, second down, you get sacked, making that a very, very, very tough 3rd and 21. And then you follow it up by what? A false start, 3rd and 26, and now you're pretty much dead in the water in overtime. But, I mean, other than that, the end of the game looked really impressive for Caleb, and he did exactly what he needed to do to put the team in a position to at least tie it and go into overtime. So,
yeah, well, I think I'm with Dave that I'm kind of like settling into where we're at and what expectations should be. And I actually saw a competitive team the last 2 weeks, which we didn't see against New England. We didn't see against Arizona, right? So I think there's a lot of positives to take from it, pretty much all on Caleb Williams' shoulders and by extension, Thomas Brown. I don't want to take all the meat off the bone. Dave, what do you think so far about Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams and where we're at with this Bears season?
I think we do need to kind of start taking meat off the bone, because at this point, J2K, like, you're finding the slivers of hope. And like you said, it's all about Caleb right now, which is unfortunate, because this reminds me of conversations me and Paulie had 2 years ago, where we were talking the same stuff about Justin Fields, where we're okay with losing. And trust me, I'm a guy who's okay with losing, if it's for the right reasons and if it makes sense for the team. The Bears have sucked me back in every single week lately. And whether that's just Caleb or just being competitive or me just being sick of the rebuild, I wanted that win. I was watching it and I was thirsty for it. And there was no part of me that was like, looking for Eberflus will more likely get fired and blah, 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 and a better draft pick. Like, that wasn't my thinking at all anymore. And I'm past that. But this does bring me back to 2 years ago, where we said, if Justin Fields throws for 300 yards a game, but you still find a way to lose, that's a good thing. I think we're past that. I think we shouldn't be there anymore, because this team, and every week that we kind of go on, is just more and more obviously talented, and the coaching is just holding them back so much. And the just game management and the situational awareness and the basic fundamentals of football. This is a team that, it's if you've ever played basketball with like any kids nowadays, they all walk up and they just start chucking up threes because they saw Steph Curry do it, but none of them can make a layup. And that's what this team is in my mind. They're all just chucking up threes. We can hit the deep bombs. We can hit the big plays. We can maybe get a pick or two here, but we can't make layups. And Paulie loves using that analogy, and he's not a big basketball guy, but we just can't make layups on this team. And I'm coming to terms with it, but right now it's all about Caleb. And the silver lining is that we are seeing him be an absolute superstar. It's a funny thing as a Bears fan, if you break down the team segment by segment, and the thing that we're the most confident and comfortable with is the quarterback, and everything else is the problem. It's just my point.
The rookie quarterback too.
Yeah.
And that's what we're most confident about, is the rookie. Yeah. It's tough times, man. I hear you, man. And I am trying to find slivers of hope in this, because, we still have quite a season, left. to see what happens. And I think we're all watching a lame duck head coach, right? So where where do you go other than try to find the slivers of hope and what is the next head coach got on his plate? I think there's some optimism there, but Paul, what do you think?
Well, you look at this division, J2K, and the three teams other than us, the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, they're 27-6 combined. So I mean, we're looking at an average of a 9-2 record per team. Like if you had to just split it up evenly, right? So we're the ones dragging this division down at the moment, currently record-wise. And as far as slivers of hope, when your division is that tough, I mean, you might have a better chance of going out and playing the lotto, to be honest with you, than to think that the Bears are going to do anything substantial this year. I go back to this game, and once again, there's just simple things that kind of, like I said, I'm very impressed with the performance of what he was asked to do and how he performed. However, overall, we ran the ball 16 times. Outside of Caleb Williams' rushes, we only handed the ball to running back 16 times. Against the defense, that's a top pass rush defense. They're known for their crazy exotic blitzes. And we asked the rookie quarterback.
To interrupt you, I believe Caleb led the game in rushing, right?
Oh, I'm not sure. Did he?
I'm 99% sure he led the game in rushing.
Well, so we asked him to throw the ball 47 times. Now, mind you, like I said, 68% completion percentage. I believe he was 32 for 47, something like that. But, we put a lot on his plate still. And so, like, I just wish that there was an easier game plan to be able to devise to make this thing a little bit more of a smooth road for Caleb rather than his constant uphill battle.
Well, I actually liked the game plan. I know it was heavy and run, but a lot of what we had to do against that cover 1, cover 0 blitz scheme Flores runs is we ran a lot of screen plays. And those kind of subtracted run plays out of it. We're going lateral. We're not relying on the offensive line as much because that is a very poor position group for us. So I actually liked the game plan. I also saw some differences from last week to this week. Last week we're in a lot of these bunch formations, and this week spread the receivers out wider so that Minnesota couldn't dial up as many exotic blitzes on us. So I'm a huge fan of what Thomas Brown has done in 2 games. I've seen a shift in scheme given the 2 defenses he faced, and given what we can work with on offense. I also think that we had to come from behind quite a bit in that game, and a lot of those false start penalties, just the overall penalties on offense kept pushing us back. Longer yardage situations, which means more likelihood for passing. So I am okay with it, but I think in general, you go 16 rushing attempts in a game, most likely you're not winning that game, right?
Yeah, just to confirm, Caleb Williams had 6 carries for 33 yards, led the team in carries rushing yards that day. Swift had 13 for 30. DJ Moore had 1 screen, reverse for 1 for 13, and then Roshan 2 for 2. I'm with you, J2K. Great points on that part where you do see a usually complex Minnesota like defense with a lot of schematic stuff I watched Paul with Carl the other day, and they were talking about like the crazy schemes that Brian Flores pulls up, and it's just linebackers over the center and safeties over the center and stuff. And it did look like a much more pedestrian defense against the Bears, which is super promising, all things considered, for Thomas Brown and Caleb. But Caleb is he's different, man. I mean, we should talk about some positives in terms of Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams. And that's one of those connections that in the back of my mind, I don't want to split up, and I don't want to kind of separate at this point. But moving forward and looking forward as the season goes on, the only thing that Thomas Brown can do for you right now, as his position as offensive coordinator, is just keep developing Caleb's confidence, because system-wise, we have no idea what's coming next year. But what I've seen so far is just Caleb playing free. He's looking like Caleb from USC. And those things are the positives for sure.
Yeah, that pass to Swift. Caleb rolls out and he's on the move and he chucks the ball up. That was, I don't know if you remember the highlight from USC, but it was like almost identical. Just the arm talent, off platform throws. Yeah.
Yeah, and even more so than the off-platform throws. And if we're talking about just Caleb straight up as a development player type of situation, the guys led 3 fourth-quarter comebacks as a rookie, which every time a game tying or a game-winning situation pops up within 5 minutes, I immediately text Paul because I know all he's doing is just thinking like, well, this is what matters, man. 3 minutes and less and what your quarterback can do. And I know he's just salivating and just chomping at the bit to see what he can do. And so far, he's 3 for 3 in those opportunities. I think maybe 3 for 4 if we're talking about like Houston as well back in the early part of the season. But the other part of it is that I think we've seen what we need to see in terms of confidence, where he is doing all the things that high-level NFL quarterbacks struggle to do. And that's like those tight windows throws, anticipatory throws, rifling in between 2 defenders' hands. And some people call that luck and just nobody could tip that ball. But the good guys do it consistently. And then, it doesn't look like luck anymore. It just looks like what you're skilled at. And that's, again, we're trying to find silver linings before we get into the negatives. And that's the stuff that I look at with just those tight window throws between 2 defenders. Fingertips can't just get on it. And he's executing those things, which no matter who's the offensive coordinator, whoever's the coach next year, those things translate. Those are not things that you need to worry about being a system guy. Those are things that you need as a baller in game time, and it's irrelevant of what the system is. That's just things that you can't teach. You can't coach that. Those are the things that I'm optimistic about watching these last few games if you have to find some silver linings.
And David, I think you mentioned this in like week 2 or week 3, where you're like, man, he had a pass that just went right over a linebacker's fingertips. And you're like, it doesn't matter who the linebacker is. Like, you're like, over the fingertips is over the fingertips. Like, you're going to be able to do that again. And I think we saw that again this game, towards the end of the game, where he just threw it right over the linebacker's hand and got it to Keenan Allen and, in a clutch moment as well. Caleb's on pace for a 3,600-yard season if you just take his season average and spread it out. However, if you take the average over the last 2 games with Thomas Brown, he's actually on pace to break 4,000 if he continues this. But I mean, we've only had a 2-game sample size, so it's small number of games to go off of to sit there and make predictions like that. However, there has definitely been an increase in Caleb Williams' production under Thomas Brown. You can't deny that. To me personally, I tend to feel that just kind of it's beneficial from how bad Shane Waldron really was. Like, he set the bar really low. It's, you know what I mean? So for a guy to be able to come in and do better than that, it's nice, but it's also, in my opinion, expected. So good for Thomas Brown. He's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's calling a good game plan. Do I think we need to tie him to Caleb Williams in the future moving forward? Not necessarily. Listen, if you get another coach in here and he wants to keep Thomas Brown around, sure, I'm all game. But it's got to be that coach's decision. I'm not going to sit here and go, we got to keep this guy because we had some kind of little spark there for a little bit. To me, I just feel like there's other coaches in this league that could definitely still coach and get good production and call a good game plan for this kid and help him grow. And, there's guys out there with experience that can do it.